Greetings, chess friends. Today, a discussion about world champion Tigran Petrosian. In the United States, we have a habit of mispronouncing things, so I will say Petrosian for the rest of the video, but one of the greatest players, and I find his style to be absolutely fascinating. Side note, not to be confused with the current active Grandmaster Tigran Petrosian from Armenia, but this is the world chess champion. 6 years he was the champion. And while he was champion, he was able to accomplish some amazing things. Here, my absolute favorite, and maybe the finest move ever played in a world title match. Just a classic queen sacrifice. What a moment in time to be able to play that in the world championship match. King takes h8 is the only legal move, and then, of course, knight takes rook, makes a check, and threatens the queen. The aftermath, white will be up a full minor piece. So a beautiful conclusion. Queen h8, that is really something special. This one, honestly, even more impressive. I'm going to start back here a moment with the move knight takes b3. And here, what Fischer called a very nice tempo move, knight c4. In-between move. There was just a minor piece captured, but Petrosian instead attacks the queen. Remember, you can attack something bigger. If there's a capture, you're not just required to take back. The queen moves, and now we do take back an extra move earned, essentially. a5, bishop d6, causing the knight and rook a little confusion. Bishop f6, queen f3, threatening this bishop. King g7, and a reminder to all of you out there that the king is not a good defender. Here, he plays rook e4, and unfortunately, the question mark there, and I'll reveal why in just a moment. Let's see the real game first here, though. Rook d8, and an unforgettable combination uncorked here. Queen takes f6. Just stunning. I mean, this is the stuff of legends. To capture bishop e5, the king must come further out. Notice g7 is guarded by the bishop. And to not allow the king to escape back to safety, the beautiful move, bishop g7. Here, this is where black resigned the game. Up a queen. Remarkable. And here, the problem really, though, are the moves h4. Essentially, that's just going to finish the game. So any type of move trying to defend themselves is going to come h4 and bishop f3. So let's just play a blank move, bishop d7, h4, and bishop f3, or h4 and bishop h3 here, something like this. So many ways to checkmate, and again, it's critical that the king cannot escape. So beautiful queen sack there, and the quiet move really puts this one in a category of its own. Now, we mentioned the move rook e4 was given a question mark. The only flaw in this incredible sacrifice was that he could have done it a move earlier. Instead of rook e4, queen takes f6 actually wins right away. Even more sensational with less pieces involved. The concept is exactly the same. After bishop e5 check and bishop g7, really you've taken away the escape squares, and the pawn moves are going to do them in. Really, there is very little escape. You can give your queen away, but let's just show the move like moving the rook d8, h4, for example, king g4, rook e4, among other moves, and bishop f3, the same checkmate. So a beautiful combination. Could have been performed one move earlier, but that wasn't to be. Rook e4 and then queen f6, and it all works nicely. So here's some maybe that you actually have not seen. Here, black pieces, and this is a nice attack brewing. Amazingly, the black king is safe, but this game doesn't end the way you'd think a normal attack should go, with a beautiful attack or a blazing sacrifice. Here, he actually, queen c8, a beautiful move, traps the white queen right in the center of the board. Look at all those squares, potential, and every single one is guarded. The white queen has nowhere to go. Notice the rook supported by the black queen. So a beautiful combination, and a little reminder that sometimes the attack doesn't always end in checkmate, but the win of material or the trapping of a piece Really a nice concept there. And I want to just point out that the black king is safe in this position. I noticed, looking at a number of games from Petrosian, that he really was a bit cavalier with his king, castling long in many games or uncovering the pawns away from his king. Not crazy to the point of being dangerous, but calculated and careful. Really an interesting characteristic. It's well known that he loved to sacrifice the exchange, and that really made his style unique, that sort of boa constrictor. And I think this game really kind of encapsulates that against Olafsson, another grandmaster. He plays the kind of boa constrictor-like move, knight c d8. And the point of that move is actually pretty nice, that this bishop is low on squares. And the pawn moves now are going to be very disruptive, as well as supporting this if ever our queen needs to move. Kind of a nice move in the engine's top move. Queen b3, c6, another tempo move. c5, another tempo move. And all of a sudden, black's position, which looks very peculiar here, is uncorking to a really nice attack. Knight takes e5. This game really follows an interesting path. You'd almost think that white was the one putting on a show here. Notice the danger. And he walks a tightrope. Petrosian, I really kind of admire that style. King a8, getting out of the pin. Knight g6. Again, more trades the better now for black. Black is defending and ahead in material. And defend he does. Bishop takes knight, exchanging more pieces. But white puts in between bishop d7, striking against our queen, which had to move, and rook d4. Have you ever seen a construction like this? And the attacking pieces on the king's side, well, on the queen's side, I should say, are real here. Bishops, rooks, and black is actually winning. Somehow this very strange construction, of course the rooks are not doing anything. They're just redundant, but the knights are, and e5 is a very nice rejoiner, getting material back. We capture the minor piece, and rook takes b6. How would you be feeling in this one with the black pieces? Petrosian, though, with ice in his veins, knight f e5. Again, a solid defending type move. And rook takes b7. White going all in here. King takes, of course, and h5. Strange to sacrifice another exchange. Here at present, black is up a rook. Keep careful count. Black is a full rook ahead. Queen d6. Counter attacking and a very good defensive move. H takes g6, queen takes d7, and that usually indicates the attack is over. It's an interesting quirk of chess that the queen is not a good attacker by herself. With support, obviously the best, the strongest piece in a vacuum, but alone doesn't checkmate very much. Queen takes f4, knight takes g6, and white resigns. White is down a rook with absolutely no attack. The rook and knight for white are far off in the distance. The black king is safer than you might think at first. And really, this game was just sensational. Ice cold defending chess. Let's look at a game from the very beginning against a fellow Grandmaster Kotov and see here who is thinking like a Grandmaster. The King's Indian type setup here by black, and Petrosian also contributed a lot to the theory of the King's Indian from both colors. D6, B5. And this really starts the game off in a fun direction where it ends quickly. B5 and B4. Notice this doesn't just happen. You have to observe the different features. I'm telling you kind of that black wins by a furious attack, but it doesn't just happen. It's move 10, and black is already castled. Develop. Right? We could say this rook and queen and bishop are all ready to awaken in one move quickly. White is a little behind schedule. How does that happen? A lot of pawn moves, moving the same piece over and over again. Knight, knight, knight. Here, this pawn move, the e pawn moving and exchanging itself. So really interesting here. And now that the attack is on, white doesn't have a moment to castle. D5, a poorly timed counter strike, and b takes c3 is nearly game over. It's move 11, a brilliancy. and really white is in trouble. He takes the knight, c takes b2, and on the 12th move, this pawn is about to be promoted. Incredible here. That pawn is really just too much. Rook b1, what else? And knight e4. That not only brings the knight to the attack, defends the pawn. This knight is critical because now any check, which could come in the form of queen or bishop, really cannot be blocked. The knight is guarding now d2 and c3, and the danger is real. Knight c3 is also looming, and black is completely winning. Bishop d3, maybe white can get to safety, but queen a5 check, and you really don't have a comfortable way to block this. King f1, bishop a6, the attack continues. Knight c4, capture, capture, and knight c3. That move had been waiting for a while. The queen and rook under attack. Notice this pawn is going to survive this series of exchanges, and that is just way too much. Queen d2, a good move, pinning the knight to the queen for the moment. We cannot take this rook. Queen a4, which counter attacks on the bishop. And now we capture the rook. Of course, we wanted that rook. Rook f b8, use more pieces. That rook was lying dormant. This pawn is gone. Again, kind of that beautiful Sicilian type structure, this King's Indian game, but just a very comfortable. Often after the chaos of the game, black still remains with a nice pawn structure. Rook c1 is looming here, and this game is nearly over. Rook a c8. There's rook c1. Bishop takes, and a bit of a fancy finish here. Rook takes rook. Rook c1. It would appear that black is on the cusp of winning, but I would say at least visually, this does look a little scary. Rook takes b1, the best move, but I wouldn't feel super comfortable after queen h6. Notice any bishop move is threatening mate, and knight g5 is looming. Fortunately for black, we just get there first. Queen d1, white doesn't have an immediate check. G4, and black is the first to really get the serious attack. King g3, rook g1, a brilliant move which causes white to resign. Not only is this pawn promoting, and there's still no threat here, knight takes rook, queen takes knight, and then just b1 queen. There is no threat despite how close the bishop and queen are to our king. A nice game there, and I really like the in-between moves and attacking prowess there. Let's see another one here with some nice attack, beginning with knight g5. Knight g5, although black might even be slightly better here, according to today's engines, really, knight g5 seems to have jarred something loose and caused a mistake. g6 is always dangerous to move the pawns around your king, and h5 really playing right into white's hands. Notice this bishop spying the king side. We also have rook, bishop, knight, and our queen. Don't forget the queen hasn't moved, but it's ready to strike. What's amazing about this move, h5, is it really just hangs a piece. Black plays knight d3 check, but let's look at bishop takes g5. That's a full piece. Bishop takes, queen takes, and queen takes d5. A lot of the tactics in this game are based on this exact idea that the rook is hanging. We're going to see that again. Also, the knight was hanging there. h5 it is. The real game went knight d3 check, trying to delay things even if black is giving us a pawn. Capture, capture. And instead of taking this pawn, a good active move, taking this pawn. Much more important to the attack. There was also here, it appears, knight takes h7. Actually looks very good at first sight. H takes g6, though, was played in the game. H takes g6. Then queen takes d3, still hanging this knight. But the response is the same. If you were to take twice, queen d5 is hitting the rook and king. Like I said, that tactic shows up over and over again. So the real game went b takes c3, b takes c3, bishop g5, and instead of taking again, like we said, queen takes pawn on d5 check, he played queen a5. This king has really been left bare, and the next move is very invasive, bishop f6. Connecting with this pawn is really cementing this bishop into black's territory. With the combination of the rook, this game is nearly over. Black has no real threat on our king, and not even to mention white is ahead a pawn. So everything going in white's favor. Rook e8, desperate. Queen d4. That move is really nice, connecting the bishop and queen if the pawn are to move. Also thinking that our queen might be able to slide over. King f7, and a really beautiful finish here, alert e6. Petrosian really was a skilled tactician, and again, hard to really encapsulate his style. It had so many unique characteristics. Walking your king out into the open. He liked to do that. A bit, like I said, cavalier with his king. He sacrificed exchanges. Some brilliant, flashy tactics, as we've already seen, and that Python-like defensive skill. So really a unique style all his own. This move ended with another beautiful-looking move, bishop d8. Not the only winning move, but a nice one. And the point here is that the rook and queen combine to just checkmate black, in addition, of course, to the queen being under attack. So let's just look at a sample. Queen takes is just checkmate. Rook h7 and queen h8. That's a classic ladder checkmate. And a lot of the black pieces back on their home squares. So funny moment there, but I really like e6 as a nice one. Just to point out, if king had taken, we have queen e5, extremely invasive here, and the same idea, rook just invading. There's really very, very little to do. The king can hit the road, but it's not going to last long. Okay, last one here, and we're going to start from the move queen d3. Classic isolated pawn position. Looks like a game you might have even had yourself. Bishop and queen, battery here. All we need to do is move this knight. An obvious idea for players of this level. So don't think that we're just going to see a blunder. Careful to note, the move knight b4, which would normally be very annoying, is not allowed because of this pawn. Queen and bishop are safe from this move because of the pawn well placed. Here's the game, rook e8 and pawn d5. A very nice pawn sacrifice, a quiet move, but remember that this knight is glued to the h7 square. Because queen and bishop are looking, this knight cannot move, essentially. The queen cannot take. Our knight is watching. Therefore, the only move is pawn takes, a forcing move. Then bishop g5 comes. And there starts to be this doom and gloom here. We're threatening to capture. Also, danger along the d file, and nearly every piece is playing. Knight e4. Knight takes e4. Pawn takes e4. Queen takes e4. We just recouped our pawn. Keep a close watch over the material. We are threatening again, checkmate material, equal, but mate is threatened. g6, that guards the mate. Queen h4, we didn't like being in the staring vision of that rook. Queen h4 also supports the bishop, and the pressure is real here along the diagonal and e-file. Queen c7, bishop to b3. I love this redirection, let's call it. Now that the pawns are like this, the bishop here is a little bit stymied, and by going to bishop b3, you are now targeting the f7 pawn, maybe to take it. Maybe it's just pinned. Maybe the knight connects or the queen, and you can definitely sense some moves like bishop takes, king takes, and queen takes h7 could be deadly. Here's the real game. h5, queen e4. What is white threatening? Queen takes g6. That move is fair game. Everybody see? It appears the pawn is guarding it, but it is not. Bishop staring at the king, a pin. So watch out. Queen takes g6 is on tap here. King g7, that guards it, and bishop takes f7. This is an explosion on the chessboard. Probably overlooked as it's just such a brilliant move. It's not a check anymore, and maybe black really lost sight of this move. King took, that's the game, and it's very similar to our previous example, bishop g7. Remember that game earlier? Bishop h6, taking away the squares first. Wonderful execution here. And the threat is no less than checkmate. Queen e6 is mate on the spot. Queen c4, also deadly, and black has a lot of problems and one extra piece. Queen d6, that guards some of the threats, but you can't guard them all. Queen c4 check. King f6, and I would not want to be here in black's position. After king f6, rook a d1, just centralization, using more pieces, not in a rush, as natural a move as can be. And also notice that queen e6 or rook e6 are coming. Knight d4 desperate. Queen just took. A simple answer. Our queen was under attack, and queen takes d4 is a simple answer. Picking up a knight. What black might be surviving here but they're just down a pawn. Surviving isn't good enough. H4, and black resigns. Here, the dual problems, bishop g5, rook d7, knight e4. Also, h4 gives the king some room to run. No danger of back rank checkmate. We're up a pawn. We're still attacking. More material coming our way after rook d7. And I wouldn't say it's even an early resignation. This one's pretty bad. Wow, really a beautiful kingside attack. Again, starting with some nice moves, redirecting this bishop, and then 2 moves later, sacrificing it. But again, the quiet moves. He really had a unique style, Petrosian, a way about him. And I love seeing players like that get to the very highest level. So I definitely would say hard to categorize him as an attacker, defender, positional, whatever you want to say. But the games are very interesting, very instructional, and he just kept winning. So what else can you say? Hope you enjoyed this one, everybody. Another educational and interesting video. And we're going to keep rolling with some of the great players and games of the past. Thanks, and see you again soon.